Welcome to Prime Perspectives, where Keith Galicia guides you to the financial finish line. As a certified financial planner practitioner, he covers all topics in financial planning. Join him each episode to gain insights and strategies, helping you pursue your financial goals together.
Welcome, everyone, to the Prime Perspective podcast, where our goal is to get you to the financial finish line, whether it's anything from retirement planning, estate planning, tax-efficient strategies, or even if you're a business owner and you're looking for ways to enhance your options for yourself and for your employees. Which leads me into today's conversation. We have Tom here. He's going to give us the ins and outs of what a 401k plan design, the ins and outs of defined benefits, perhaps cash balance plans, and what that looks like to either a HR department or even a business owner as well. So Tom, thanks for showing up today.
Pete, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the financial services industry?
Yeah, Keith, thanks for asking. And it's one that starts off like many, where they are looking to do something that is going to be additive to the community in which they serve, and just a genuine interest in a subject matter. And that's really what led me to financial services. It was just an industry interest with a strong desire to help others.
Was there any light bulb that went off that trended you towards that direction as far as your career? What really inspired you beyond that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It was where I started off in financial services. It was within a call center. I was answering phones for a large mutual fund company. And it was there that I got my first taste of really engaging with people and understanding that I could make a difference in lives. And that really propelled me to want to do more and have a broader influence and impact within communities. And that just led to my progression within financial services. Started from answering telephones, working with professionals like yourselves, servicing employer-sponsored sponsored retirement plans, and now ascending to leadership roles within organizations where I'm having more broad responsibility for relationship management overall. But it's always been with a mindset of how can I help professionals like you, their trusted clients with their programs, and ultimately their employees and the outcomes that everyone's desirous of.
So you only specialize in employee plans. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's one of those things that I think that we all as professionals make a very conscious decision as to where we're going to lend our credibility and how we're going to have the most influence. And mine has always been similar with you, Keith, is educating, engaging, and then really looking to have outcomes. What we get to do is somewhat special. It's a very noble profession that we have, where we can work with business owners to help them achieve a benefit that individuals will appreciate, that they can help those employees achieve their outcomes.
Well, real good. Well, I'm glad you're the specialist. That's why we have you on today. So let's get into maybe some general understanding here. Can you provide with me, and this is a loaded question, I'm sure it's going to take a lot of time, but can you provide with me a brief overview of 401k plans, defined benefit plans, and cash balance plans?
Yeah, I like how you start with easy questions, Steve. Thank you. 401k plans, quite simply, defined contribution plans. Many know that employees can put in money to these programs on a pre-tax or after-tax basis. And sometimes employers will match those employees' dollars. The individuals, they get often to choose where that money goes, like in stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, depending on the availability of such options. And the benefit really is going to grow based upon those things. That is how much that individual is able or willing to contribute, how they're diversified in and amongst the plan's investment options, and just sticking with it over time. So that's really a 401k in a nutshell. Defined benefit plans, people often think of these as the more traditional type retirement plan, offering a specific benefit when they retire, usually in the form of monthly payment for life, and the amount that an employee or an individual is going to receive is based upon things such as their salary, the growth of that salary, and how long they've worked for that employer over time. So generally speaking, at the end of that employment history, the employer is then going to provide that employee with a monthly pension for life. And a cash balance plan is generally considered a balance between a defined contribution or 401k plan and that defined benefit plan. And the benefit itself is going to be considered more like a defined contribution plan, in that, and this is going to get a little deep here, that individuals are going to receive pay credits and interest credits that will be added to their account. So each year they're going to see an account balance grow that is going to be very similar to a 401k experience.
So we defined 3 separate plans. Can all of these plans be under one wrapper? So if you had a large corporation, the company wanted to offer a 401k defined benefit for specific employees, and also cash balance plans as well, can those all be combined under one plan for the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. I've seen it within the very largest organizations where they will have a 401k. They will have either a defined benefit plan that has been frozen and transitioned into a cash balance plan. But to answer your question, yes, I've seen it. Generally speaking, you'll have 1 or 2, but not all 3, unless it's in the instance that I spoke of. But yes, it can occur, but more often than not, it's either going to be 401k and defined benefit or 401k and cash balance.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, let's talk about probably the most common plan for businesses. What are some of the key benefits of a 401k plan for both the employers and the employees?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. On the employer front, it's really a viable tool when you're looking to recruit and retain talent. It's a hyper-competitive environment that we're in, and people are always looking what's in it for them, as they should, to make sure that they and their families, or whatever their situation is, that they're making the most of it. So by an employer offering a 401k program can help with recruiting and retaining skilled employees. It can help also incentivize performance. There's ways that you can use the retirement plan to help motivate people through an employer match or through a profit sharing component. Those are just different ways that an employer can fund the benefit to ensure that the employees are being rewarded and recognized for the performance. And then the tax advantages of the program for the employer really will help offset some of the liabilities that potentially come with offering a 401k program. And it can often help on that employer's return with certain payroll taxes. So by offering a 401k plan, you're going to not only help the organization with some of those advantages that I talked about, but you're also going to help the employees long-term secure a financial future.
I really like some of these new apps that are available for the employees now, where they integrate financial planning, or you can aggregate your accounts all under one app, so you can best try to hit a retirement goal, and you can establish those parameters. 401ks have come a long way since then, where they're starting to realize that financial planning is a huge tool to be able to help people kind of understand and get to the finish line there. It's when we think about defined benefit plans, not as popular as maybe they once were years ago. How does a defined benefit plan benefit the business owners compared to like a 401k plan? Let's dig a little deeper on that.
Got it. As far as the business owners, it's going to afford perhaps more control over the benefit, in that they're going to be able to consider higher deductibility within the defined benefit plan. Number one, the limits are going to be different than a traditional 401k plan. So the opportunity for the employer is going to be far greater potentially within a defined benefit plan than within a defined contribution or 401k plan. The control over the investments, the employer is generally going to work with someone like yourself to determine how to best meet the liability that is the funding of the employee's retirement at some point in time in the future. And it really goes into the dynamic of working with a financial professional, an actuary, determine the best asset liability mix to ensure outcomes. And I touched on this already, but it bears repeating. Is this the contributions that go into it are going to be generally greater than traditional 401k plan?
Sure. I'm going to go back to something that you said earlier, and that's just so that way we can address the last thing that we had discussed, which is cash balance plans. You had said something that you've seen at one point, defined benefit plans converting into cash balance. How does that cash balance maybe differ a little bit more, which I know you kind of brought that up, and what is that specific advantage as to why a business owner might want to do that?
Yeah, great question. Well, there's a few that are in there, but I think the one that really comes top of mind for me is when you're trying to portray a defined benefit plan to an employee and what that means for them. Usually the benefit that's going to come out of that is going to be best portrayed in the way of annuitization. That is, hey, for the rest of your life, you're going to receive this type of payment, and that payment will be predicated on your circumstance at that time. A cash balance plan looks more like a 401k plan in that an employee or an individual can log into a tool like you talked about, a mobile app, and they can see real time what their balance is. As far as managing it, they're not going to necessarily have that, but for the sake of trying to portray something that may be more familiar to an employee, a cash balance plan generally is going to be more familiar to an employee just based upon, hey, I have an account balance, it's growing, I can actually see it. Innovation has come a long way in defined benefit plans as well, where now they're able to start to see that as well. But generally speaking, it's going to be the employee experience that the employer is probably going to get more out of when trying to communicate the benefit to the employees.
Well, I think that's about the best way that you can explain that. Certainly makes sense to me. When you think, so we're certainly not giving tax advice, but
Right.
what are some of the tax advantages for business owners who want to implement a 401k defined benefit or a cash balance plan?
Thanks for the question. It's a good one. Implementing plans such as 401k, defined benefit, cash balance, they're all going to offer tax advantages for business owners. I'll just start top down. We've started with 401k, defined benefit, and then cash balance. I'll start with the 401k aspect. It's going to be the tax deductions. Employers are going to be able to deduct contributions made to employees' accounts from their business income. Employees are going to be able to defer taxes on their contributions, which may put them potentially at a lower tax rate. And then employers can make a matching contribution or contributions to the overall program that's going to boost the overall tax benefit to themselves. Defined benefit plans, they're going to have something that's known as an above the line deduction. And we're not going to get too deep into taxation, but employers can take an above the line tax deduction on defined benefit contributions. Deferred taxes for participants, employees' taxes are deferred until they receive their distributions from these programs. And then there's going to be certain exemptions from FICA taxes. Benefits earned under a defined benefit plan are exempt from FICA taxes for W-2 employees. And then lastly, on the cash balance front, their employers are going to have a business expense deduction where they can deduct cash balance contributions as a business expense. The profits are going to grow on a tax deferred basis within the plan. And then the flexibility of the cash balance program can be tailored to meet the individual needs. That's going to help them optimize their benefits. You have to remember that each one of these is going to have its own unique features. So it's essential to choose one that aligns best with their own goals that they're attempting to accomplish.
Absolutely. Well, great. Thanks for that. Let's get into contribution limits. We know that we're starting to see larger abilities for people to be able to contribute more, allow the employers to contribute more. How do the contribution limits and rules differ between the 401k defined benefit cash balance plans?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. The 401k plan is going to have, if you will, the most modest contribution limits afforded to it. So as an individual, depending on age, you're going to be able to either, and this is, by the way, we're looking at 2024. We're going to, date timestamp this with 2024 with regard to these limits, and just know that there are cost of living adjustments that are published generally annually that would index these limits up. And we've seen them increase over time to keep pace with cost of living. But an employee contribution limit within a 401k plan is this year $23,000. If you're age 50 or older at any time during the year, you can add an additional $7,500 to your account. The total combined limit as an employee and an employer both putting money into this program is going to be $69,000. Again, this is going to be the most modest program. The defined benefit plan is going to take a significant leap. The contribution to these programs are going to be capped at $3.5 million. The compensation limit on these programs is, generally speaking, $345,000, which is going to be different than the 401k limit. And then the benefit annuity limit, that's one to keep in mind, is $275,000. And we're touching on things that are probably going to require additional depth. And that's where I would encourage individuals, if they have those questions, to work with yourselves, a professional or a tax professional, to understand what these may mean. Cash balance plans similar to defined benefit plans, $3.5 million, comp limit $345,000. By the way, there's something that's known as a solo cash balance plan, and the maximum contribution for a solo cash balance plan is $275,000. Again, I'll throw the disclaimer in here that these limits can vary based upon the specifics, and then if you need personalized advice, it's always a good idea to double back, check with someone such as yourself.
Now, I remember when I was taking my CFP class, and it was fun. The thing that stood out to me was when he was talking about defined benefit plans, like, stuff it like a pig. It gives you a lot of flexibility to really get some contributions in there, because it does. Normally people get those a little bit later on in life and they're trying to play catch up there. So
I think that's a great way to portray it, is the way that you just contextualize it is often apt, is that you have individuals that, and this is generally speaking with a smaller business owner, where they've been so hyper focused and intentional with their business, the growth of it, and then they wake up and they find themselves in their later stages of their career, and they realize that they funded the business and not the retirement. And now how can they focus forward with themselves in mind? And that's generally coming back to, hey, suffer, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that gives people a lot of options, especially when you kind of think of the limits of IRA or 401k as well. And so, yeah. Well, real good. Let's do this. You've obviously seen maybe a meat and potatoes 401k plan, and I'm sure you've probably been involved in a really customized, specific plan design for employers as well. How customizable are each of these plans to meet the specific needs of a different business owner?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked it, because to your point, they can be as vanilla as you would like them to be, and they can be as complex as the employer desires. And I've seen everything from basic to super intricate. And the great thing about 401k plans, they're super flexible, and they can be tailored to meet the needs of the business and the employees, because we talked about an employer wanting to offer this program to attract and retain employees, and the 401k plan absolutely offers the flexibility. You think about the eligibility that can go into a program, so the employer can set requirements like the age and length of service that an employee must meet in order to join the program. Similar to vesting, if an employer is going to put money in on behalf of the employee to say, hey, I'm going to fund you now and when you're in retirement, so I'm taking into consideration your current needs as well as your future needs, well, they can put something that's known as a vesting schedule on those dollars that they contribute to the employee's account to make sure that they're fully optimizing the commitment that they're making to one another. That is the employee's tenure, that it will grow with the organization, that the employer is going to reward that employee with that tenure based upon the vesting of that retirement benefit. And then contribution options, Keith, they're broad and dynamic. They can decide whether to make contributions, if they want to match contributions, if they want to do both in the way of profit sharing contributions. And that gets into design options such as traditional retirement plans, you can add safe harbor type of elements to that. And the safe harbor is one that has been developed that would afford employers, if they were to do certain things for their employees with regard to contributions, for example, then they would forego certain aspects of compliance or discrimination testing associated with certain designs. So each design type has its own rules and benefits. So employers can really tailor these to have them best fit their situation, which then gets into, hey, I've been putting money into this. Now, how do I potentially take money out? And that's where the employer can set rules for when and how employees can take money out of their plan. Some employers even allow for loans, giving access to their employees to their funds under certain instances. Investment choices, this is another thing, is that the investment options, there is a wide range of options. You have a whole host of them, and we won't go into the depth of it, but basically an employer can really afford an employee choice on where their money is based, or where their money is going to be invested based upon their risk tolerance and retirement goals. So in summation, these plans are highly customizable to align with the goals of the individual and the employer.
Good, good. I mean, I think that's really important because whenever we think about plan design, we always want to look at that through the eyes of the business owner, right? And the idea is one, they certainly want to to add benefits for their employees, for their well-being, making sure that they retire. I'm sure if they're a great employee, they want them to be there forever, but they also, understand the value of being able to retain those employees. So if you can monitor that through vesting schedules, through the way that they have the ability to, when they're eligible for those funds, then that can be a win for both parties, obviously for the business owner and then for the employee as well. So really good. Can you share with me any success stories where you've worked with, or case studies of any businesses that have benefited from these plans here?
Yeah. Getting back to 401k plans and talking about how versatile they are and how they can influence outcomes, I think about the different sizes of employers, whether you have a small or mid-sized business. And these types of businesses enjoy the flexibility and the tax advantages of 401k plans, as we discussed multiple times now, about attracting and retaining talent and offering competitive businesses. Growing companies, as they're expanding, the 401k plans often grow with them, offering a solid retirement savings options for their employees. And then professional services firms, I think about a law firm, a medical practice, consulting firms. They often offer 401k plans, offer substantial and differentiated benefits, which can be a big draw for top talent. We're in, a technology evolution. And I think about the innovation that comes with the technology startup and offering competitive packages that go into 401k plans that can help them distinguish themselves among the others as kind of best in class in their field. Nonprofit organizations, many offer 401k plans to give their employees very valuable retirement savings options, often with matching contributions to help that employee meet their overall needs. As we've mentioned before, these are very adaptable. They can be tailored to meet the specific needs of the various businesses, making them a very popular choice across many industries.
Real good. Well, Tom, I'm going to finish this conversation today with two questions, and I always like to finish it with some practical advice. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to business owners who are considering implementing or changing their retirement plans?
Yeah, thanks. I think that's important. Number one is consult with experts. Work with people like yourself, tax professionals, retirement professionals. They can help design a program that's going to best align with their needs. And then to the business owner themselves, assess their needs, their business, their employees, the size of their workforce, their plans for growth, the age, the demographics, the business's overall health. And then from there, in working with you, they can really look to optimize the different design options. We covered 401k, cash balance, defined benefit. We spent more time on 401k. That's not to suggest the others aren't viable and valuable, but it's working with professionals that they can best understand what's going to be a best fit for them. And then considering the implications of the programs themselves. What's going to be the best tax strategy by offering one of these programs for the business, for the employees, for the owner themselves, and then planning for the long term. These aren't something that you set up today and then forget about tomorrow. It's just like anything else. You need to care for it, nurture it, make sure that it's growing, that they maintain the compliance with the program, that they understand that the employees are going to need for education and assistance all along the way, communicating clearly that benefit to their workforce, reviewing and adjusting these often. We just went through some pretty significant legislation, of which there are 92 provisions that may influence any one of the programs that we talked about today. That's where individuals such as ourselves are going to be key to maintaining the benefit and ensuring continued success so they don't run afoul of it. More often than not, it's unknowingly. So it's one of those things that if you work with people that are going to be intentional and help you keep these front of mind, they'll be just that, and they'll be well cared for and highly successful in years to come.
Now, I just gave I had a speaking engagement where we talked about the Secure Act 2.0. And there are a lot of changes that are directed at retirement plans. And so it's important to have a professional that keeps their ear to the street. So that way, ensuring that your current plan is compliant, or also if you're looking to do something and creating a new plan, that you find something that aligns with the new legislation. So, and then let's finish this last question here. What common mistakes should business owners avoid when choosing or managing these plans?
Yeah, I love the question because it's more often than not what individuals such as ourselves engage with is that we're, if you will, the guardrails, and we help employers focus forward, manage their business, but keep an eye on this or these types of programs. More often than not, employers get into this with being very well intended. That is, they want to offer a benefit that's going to work for them and their employees. But what you and I just mentioned, the legislation and the fiduciary responsibility that goes along with managing this program and adhering to legislation and just keeping in front of that, recognizing there's going to be a need to review aspects of the program, such as the investments, the costs that go along with this, keeping their employees educated with regard to these benefits, just optimizing the benefit itself. More often than not, in certain aspects, we see an employer with a desire to get these stood up and launched, and then they lose focus. That's why it's so important to work with professionals such as yourself and others that are going to keep them focused on running their business as well as managing their benefits, because in doing so, they're going to help themselves and help their employees continue to grow that organization, as well as really appreciate and optimize the benefit that's going to be the most valuable for all constituents in the end.
Well, Tom, I think that's about as much quality information as we could stuff into a 30-minute podcast that I've been able to record so far. Your insight, it certainly proves that you're a professional in the industry. And I just wanted to thank you for spending the time today, not only for myself, but also for the business owners and the HR departments that are going to be able to visit this conversation today. So thank you for showing up.
Keith, it's always a pleasure being with you, and I wish you continued success.
Absolutely. And folks, stick around for more episodes of the Prime Perspective podcast, where our goal is to get you to the financial finish line. If you need to reach out to me, you have any further questions about anything that we discussed today, you can always go to my website at primeportfolioplanning.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and look forward to the next episode. Take care.
Keith Galicia is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Tom Nawrocki is not endorsed by or affiliated with LPL Financial and Prime Portfolio Planning.